All right, gonna step into the Caboose. See what it was like. Gotta be honest, I was just in here. Had a little look-see already. Pretty cool. I do want to note that this shouldn't be confused with a passenger car. Although it's actually pretty comfy, I believe this was mostly used by the employees of the railroad. Originating from Dutch language, the term caboose was used to describe a cooking gallery on the deck of a ship and also meant little house. And this caboose was built in 1927, so almost 100 years after the birth of the railroad. But don't forget, it was a, I don't want to say a slow progression at first, but they didn't just build the first tracks in 1830 or so and have gigantic steam locomotives plowing on down the track right away, right? There were a couple steps in between. This is actually a cooking stove. It says Spears New Sunbeam Railway Cabin Car Stove. Really neat. Really cool. Put the coals in down there, obviously. I'm not sure what this doohickey is for, but I'm not going to mess with it. But one thing I want to point out is it has a nice, evenly dispersed heating surface. Can't beat that. Little pipe coming out the top, obviously. This I still can't figure out. There's a small faucet here. There's a sink down here. Perhaps this was connected to cleaner drinking water, or vice versa. I'm just not too sure. Maybe one of you guys can tell me. Little storage bins here, a couple storage bins throughout. One up there, one down there, one right there, one right there. This is really neat because these here are sturdy and you are invited to climb up top, although be careful if you stop by here in Central Maryland, and do watch your head because I hit my head earlier on that. Really, really neat. Really comfortable, to be quite honest. Really neat. Roomy. I'd be good like this for at least a couple hours. I don't know, some people get claustrophobic, but I mean, this whole thing is pretty roomy. You got 4 seats up here, and you know, now I mentioned I think this was mostly for workers. Perhaps it was also for auxiliary passengers if the other cars got full, but it is not a typical passenger car, that much I can tell you. And this is really cool. Westinghouse Air Brake Company, Beacon Gauge Co., Wesley Hills, Massachusetts. And this, yes, was an e-brake. I'll show you a little signage on that here. Climb back down. Where'd that sign go? Here it is. The brakeman. Maybe an assistant brakeman were on the caboose as well. Their job was to watch as the train was moving the cars and wheels for any problems or issues that might arise. They would sit in the seats in the cupola, and if they saw a problem, they could stop the train with air brake controls located on the wall, which we just saw, in between the cupola seats. Major problem they were looking for is a hot box. On each wheel of a train car was a journal box, which was on the end of the axle and was used to grease the wheels. When you greased the wheel, they would also place a piece of wool or cotton in the box. As the wheel turned and created friction, the grease would wear out. The heat made by friction would catch the piece of wool on fire and a puff of smoke would come out the box. The brakeman would see this and stop the train so the journal box could be greased and the train could continue. That's interesting. The last worker on the caboose was a trainman. He was an extra hand to help with the switching, flagging, or other jobs on the train. His most important job was if the train had to stop in an emergency. Before the time of radios and telephones, the train man would have to take a red flag or red lantern at night, run 3/4 of a mile along the track behind the train, obviously as a brake light to warn anybody that might be incoming. This was to warn any other trains that might be coming to stop. When his train was ready to move, they would all blow the whistle and he would run back and board the caboose. This man was usually the youngest on the crew. And of course there's a conductor as well, who oversaw the whole train, including the engine crew, engineer, fireman working on the locomotive. He was responsible for keeping the train on schedule, dropping off or picking up freight, and overseeing the rest of the crew. This is neat. This is a equipment list order. Some sort. We got lanterns, flags, torpedoes. I'm not sure about that. Carbon oil, packing bucket, packing knife, chisel, monkey wrench, pinch bar, water bucket, paper towels, clamp for a rerailer, car chain, emergency knuckle, air hose, coal box. Basically everything you need. So this is it. So I think this was these 4 beds here, and I could very well be wrong about this. I didn't see any signage that mentioned it, and I think the tours are on the weekends. I'm a little more than halfway through the week here, so I'm not being given a guided tour. But again, admission is free. And I think it might be on the weekends unless there's a tour involved, and then I think there may be a slight fee. But you guys will have to check. I'll try to provide that information. But I think these beds here were, again, perhaps auxiliary seating and or so if there was a long trip, the workers could rotate shifts kind of and take a little nap down here. That's just my hunch. That's just my hunch. But this is really neat. Really pretty roomy. I mean, when you're on the outside of this thing, it doesn't look like it would be so roomy, but it's comfortable, and there's a bit of space. So this was the caboose here at the Ellicott City Railway Museum, and this is kind of part 2. I just left the model gallery or diorama, and we're about to do part 3 inside the main part of the museum. So I will see you pretty soon here.